Those in charge of running this operation to try to install Random Guy Named Juan as some kind of a believable authority figure, they are amateurs. They absolutely have no idea what they're doing. This illustrious return to Venezuela that happened shows through the imagery that the story they've cooked up is completely false. And you can see it not only in their language, but like I said, in the imagery. And in today's video, what I would like to do is kind of walk you through that and show all of the fallacies. Now, this picture we'll start with. Here is a random guy named Juan surrounded by those starving throngs of people eating out of garbage cans. Really? I don't see that. Do you see that? I see a bunch of well-dressed, well-manicured, well-fed people. And they needed to give him bodyguards. They needed to bring in ambassadors from nations that have bent the knee to the royalty in D.C. on this issue. We have that picture here. But if you look in the background, what do you see? Do you see security forces? I see two of them. 1, 2. Do you see security forces acting at the behest of an evil, terrible, horrible dictator? No, but you also see the functioning of an airport. People just going about their business. Any of the tweets that you find out there about this, look in the background. Do you see massive starvation? Do you see the massive collapse of a society? Do you see people that are just on the edge of existence? No, you don't. Do you? That's the problem. No one is really talking about it, but that is the problem. Now, our leader came out today and pretty much confirmed everything that I had been telling you over the last, week or so about what their intentions are. That it's very important for the... Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I got the wrong picture up. I'm sorry. Occasionally this happens. I get a lot of stuff going and I can't keep it all straight. Here we go. This is the tweet from our vice president. At Random Guy Named Juan's safe return to Venezuela is of the highest importance to Washington, D.C. Any threats, violence, or intimidation against him will not be tolerated and will be met with swift response. The world is watching. Interim President Guaido must be allowed to re-enter Venezuela safely. Now, if 90%, here's the second fallacy, by the way, if 90% of the people support Random Guy Named Juan, which is the big lie being cooked up by Washington, D.C., why would that be necessary? To have him surrounded by ambassadors with diplomatic plates. Trying to create an international incident, are we? And during his speech, Random Guy Named Juan went right from the airport to this staged rally. You would think if 90% of the people were starving and on the edge of existence that there would be daily protests and daily unrest, but there's not. There are people going to work, getting up, taking a shower, getting dressed, just like you and I do. Kids off to school, and they go do their jobs. But here's what he said. Random Guy Named Juan desperately tells supporters and himself in upper middle class East Caracas, "We are doing fine." Really? We are doing fine. Despite no announcements when or how he plans to install himself in Miraflores Presidential Palace, admits February 23 was quote-unquote unsuccessful because, quote-unquote, the military didn't fulfill its role. Really? But 90% of the people and the vast majority of the military support you, don't they, Random Guy Named Juan? Or is that a lie too? It's an interesting thing to follow if you look at it with an open mind. And real quick, I am going to bring up a couple of different videos from the events of the day. And I would like my audience to just look. Now, this is my Kedia. And we're going to scroll up here and see if we can, down here, pardon me, and see if we can look at a couple of different things. We're going to go ahead and open this up. Okay, now here's the rally, right? The staged rally of the starving people. We're going to kick down the volume there. Now, I just want you to look at the crowd. Is this a nation of starving people living on the edge, digging out of garbage cans, eating cats and dogs, all this kind of stuff? What do you see in front of you? You see a lot of very healthy, very well-fed, very energetic people that simply lost an election and are using DC and our threat of military force to install a leader that they agree with. That was the end of that video. Here's one showing the heavy security presence that was necessary. Why would that be? Let's continue to scroll down here. Here is Random Guy Named Juan showing up at the VIP section of the airport. But once again, do we see a nation in collapse? Do we see people living on the edge? No, we don't. We see what is going to be seen as a foreign power attempting to overthrow a sovereign nation. And the videos go on and on and on. I think this is funny. This is what the opposition has used to try to shame Nicolas Maduro, to give you an idea of who the opposition is and what they believe. This is what they used. This is what they used to try to shame Nicolas Maduro. I told you a long time ago what was coming for Venezuela, and they've just pretty much telegraphed it. It's a giant lie, and it is the U.S., Washington, D.C. Here you go. This is a better one. Look at this. So here's the huge throng of people awaiting their master, Random Guy Named Juan, and when you look at it, you don't see what they've told you it is. It's not 90% of the population. It's a decent portion of the population. Really, starving people have the ability to run with heavy camera equipment. Wow. This is why it is exactly the analogy that I gave. With a foreign power in this country, if the aggrieved party in a losing election would go to a foreign military, go to a foreign power and say, install me, because we don't believe that the election was free or fair. It's not up to Washington, D.C. to make this decision. And it's over and over and over again. You can see this, that they have completely lied. Now, to end the video, I would like to show you what an actual dictatorship looks like. Oh, real quick. Just in case anybody is confused about what crimes were committed today. Accessory before the fact, DC, and quite a few. And those ambassadors that showed up and helped him evade arrest. Accessories after the fact, harboring a fugitive. I'm sure a lot of you know what that is all about. But this is what a dictatorship is. These people are allies of the United States. And they rule with an iron fist. Why do they rule? Oh, were they voted in because they're popular? No. They declared that God intended them for them to rule, and they have ruled in a monarchy, an actual functioning monarchy that recently was found guilty of killing and dismembering a journalist. But we're not even going to talk about that. You talk about Random Guy Named Juan being put in by DC. They do that in Saudi Arabia all the time. Saudi Arabia's king, Salman, replaces crown prince with a favorite son. Why? Because he felt like it. Because it seemed good to him. It seemed to be him the right thing to do. Did he ask the opinion of anyone? Was there a vote taken as to who they thought should lead them? No. That's not how things work in the kingdom. And we, of course, have very cordial, very friendly, open relations with the Saudis. In fact, without the Saudis, we wouldn't have been able to do in Iraq what we did. This is a big part of the military argument that a lot of people forget. It's a thing called Desert Shield. That we had safe haven in a country right across the border where we basically created the biggest military airlift in history to bring the 1st Marines, the 2nd Marines, all of the different military assets that were on the ground before the invasion back in 90. We don't have that with Venezuela. We will definitely never be able to do that in Colombia. We can't do that in Brazil. All of the forces we would use would have to be offshore. But that's another argument for another day. If there were ever any more evidence that we are being run by a dictatorship in Washington, D.C., this event is it. Even if they disagreed with how the elections were done in Venezuela, who the hell are they to just pick some random guy, make him the president, and then facilitate his installation to power, committing crime after crime after crime along the way? I'm not begrudging DC the ability to say, we don't agree with this government, we don't want to have any dealings with them. Sure, they have the right to do that. But what's going on right now is it could be construed as a war crime and an act of war. And I don't see how anyone could argue against that, regardless of your opinion. This is what is coming out of Washington, D.C. right now. Nothing else. They don't even feel like they even need to justify their actions. And that's the hallmark of an ultimate dictator. We'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe.